Alright, so I said when I came to America I was going to attend 2 shooting schools, and at the end of the process I'd give you an appraisal of them both, be as honest as I could and fair and as frank as I can be. So that's what this video is going to be. I've attended the front sight in Nevada. I did a 2-day pistol and a 2-day AR-15, and then I came to where I am now, Tulsa, and attended 2 days at the US Shooting Academy. And I'm going to do this video quite fast to upload it because I'm off tomorrow morning. I'm flying down to Houston, where I'm being picked up very kindly by C2 builder Jim. I'm having a couple of days with him and his new spread man compound, and then I'm out of here and back home to New Zealand. So I'll try and get this wrapped up reasonably quickly. Now, I said I'd be making a comparison between the 2 schools. I want to be very clear that this comparison is a little bit like comparing apples and oranges. Firstly, front sight was a classroom situation. There were about 20 people in both the pistol and the rifle class, and USSA it was just me one-on-one with the instructor. I'll explain my conclusions and then I'll give you my conclusions, then race through and give you the reasoning behind it. What did I prefer, front sight or United States Shooting Academy? I prefer the US Shooting Academy. What did I prefer, class situation, one-on-one? I preferred the one-on-one. This conclusion I want to get clear right at the very outset is only applicable to me. You are going to be different. I thought that both schools were extremely professional. The facilities are immaculate. The setup is extremely efficient. The staff are friendly, courteous, and very knowledgeable. They're very, very good instructional staff in both schools. The front sight situation, front sight is a place that at the end of it, when I did 4 days there, I came away very satisfied with the experience, but there's just a little bit something of, I guess, I don't know what to call it really, perhaps the cult of personality about the place. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, who is a guy I respect and admire for what he's accomplished, there's just a little bit too much of the, well, I came away feeling that although I'd been well serviced as a client, I was also being treated as something of a commodity. I was being packaged up in preparations for then to go on and consume more of the front sight product. I think that they do have something of a one-size-fits-all mentality, and it's either front sight's way or the highway. I do not know this for a fact because I was only there for 2 days of what was a 4-day course in both pistol and rifle. I know they got onto the wary stuff on day 3 and 4. I understand perfectly well that they are obliged to teach when they have a group of people with widely diverse experience and skills levels. They're obliged to teach one standard, one way, so that it's a safety consideration and a control consideration. Everybody up in the mound is doing the same thing. But there is a little bit of that. Even if you advance on further, you're going to have to do it the front sight way. The front sight way of clearing stoppages, the front sight firing stance, all those things, front sight way or the highway. And I'm not very keen on that approach. If you are an inexperienced or new shooter or a foreigner coming to the United States who haven't been shooting very much, then I would recommend the front sight classes. They are very, very good. They will get you in the basics, thorough grounding in the basics, safe shooting, and very good techniques. There's this endless debate about one technique versus the other. I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you. It's either safe or it's unsafe. It works or it doesn't work. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. The front sight way of doing things I don't necessarily agree with. My muscle memory, as much as anything, is the biggest problem. I've got New Zealand Army habits, New Zealand Pistol Club habits, and now they're trying to teach me a third way, and I was continually getting all messed up because I was having brain farts and defaulting to the most ingrained muscle memory, which generally was New Zealand Army. So, like I say, go to front sight, very professional, got no problem with that. I probably won't be going back. The experience that I've got now, the experience I've had in the past, just means that I don't really need to be there learning how to load a pistol and clear stoppages. Probably that's all I want to say about front sight. Be very clear about what I'm trying to explain to you. This is This is my opinion for what's good for me. It's not necessarily what's going to be good for you. You may thoroughly enjoy it, think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and want to go through and be a first family member, and good on you. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. The US Shooting Academy, slightly different. Now this is an interesting place. It's been in a bit of a state of limbo for the last year. The founder was a rich guy who set the place up, poured money into it. He had other business interests, and very sadly, when the recession hit, his other business interests started getting wobbly, and the range started to go down the tube as well. Married for the second time, his wife was starting to get her hooks into what goodies were left, and ultimately the pressure got too much for the poor bugger and he committed suicide. The bank didn't close the place down, but they were looking around for buyers. They had various buyers that presented themselves, but it took some time for a buyer with a reasonable offer to come through that the bank was happy with. In the interim, the second wife was also slapping injunctions all over the place. So the place is undergoing a renaissance. It's now been purchased by a consortium of guys. They're putting money into the marketing side of things. They're reconfiguring it. The facilities at USSA are first rate. They're every bit as good as front sight. The instructional staff there, some of these guys are phenomenal shooters. They have a wide variety of background from competition through military. I only dealt with one bloke, a guy called Richard. Richard's background initially was martial arts. He got into pistol shooting quite late in his 20s. And he's one of those guys that just chucks them. If he's keen on something, he's going to do it to the absolute nth degree. Within 2 years of starting pistol shooting, he was the Alabama, was it? Arkansas state championship. He went on to pick up 16 state championships in IDPA and action pistol. So he's a competitive competition shooter of the first rank. He then went on to start developing his own thing. He got into rifle, and most interestingly, just to cut to the chase, he's a guy that combines very, very high standards of shooting with some of the unarmed stuff as well, where the weapon becomes not just an instrument for putting bullets down range, but you can do things as we were doing today, like you've got your pistol out, somebody in front of you that doesn't necessarily need to be shot but needs to be moved, you can ram them in the sternum with a pistol, particularly a revolver, and they will move. You don't need to actually shoot them. He's much more real-world gunfighting, which means that the rifle can be right shoulder, left shoulder. You can be having the rifle out in front of you, pointing it round corners. With pistols, we were shooting from up here down. You know, from a traditional muzzle must always be down range and drills carried out and everything absolutely perfectly as per safety. Anybody with that background looking in would probably have a heart attack. But it is very safe. He's very competent, and he won't allow you to get into that stuff until you've demonstrated that you've got all the basics down pat. And I like that approach. When I got up on day one, he put me through some drills, and he was obviously just testing me out just to see how experienced is this guy, can I trust him, his fingers off the trigger, whatever I'm telling him to do, the barrel's in a safe direction. And once he'd established that that was the case, then he let things flow. He didn't get hung up on whether during my IAs I went down on one knee, which is muscle memory from the New Zealand Army. Get down low, get stable, clear the problem, get back into the fight. Front sight, their approach is do everything from standing up with the weapon out in front of you, and that's the only way to do it. They have very good arguments to support that contention, but I'm too old to be picking up that shit. My way works. It's just as fast, it's just as safe. Get the fuck out of my face. I'm 50 years old. I do not need for you to be telling me that this way is the only way that I should be doing it. I do it better another way. And my question to them was, I didn't ask it, was, is it unsafe? Did it work? And was it as fast or even faster than the way that you guys are teaching it? Yes, it was safe. Yes, it works. It's just as efficient as what they're teaching. Fuck off and let me do my own thing. Now, again, the caveat here, classroom situation, they have to make sure everyone's doing the same thing. But I suspect even in the advanced classes, I would be continually ridden and stopped because I'm not doing it the front sight way. So USSA is more flexible. They regard the gunfight as being a much more dynamic, fluid and chaotic experience. I'll be careful again in what I say here. Richard, my instructor, has that philosophy, that mindset, and that appeals to me. I think that not only front sight, but a great many of the schools where they're teaching a very rigid response to any situation, whether it be how you present the firearm, how you shoot, what you should shoot at, how you hold it, how you clear stoppages. It's an attempt to over-organise, to get things so organised that that is going to overcome what is an incredibly chaotic situation. And frankly, I don't really believe in that approach. Life is too damn slippery. I like the idea of doing what makes sense at that exact moment in time, whether it be shoot and move, duck down, get behind cover, rather than plant yourself in exactly a squared on stance and present the weapon exactly the way that you've been trained, that sort of thing. I have a suspicion that that one size fits all philosophy is not actually the way to go. Again, the caveat here, what the fuck would I know? I'm not an expert, I haven't got that much experience. I'm just telling you what works for me, what I prefer. If you are a more experienced shooter and more confident, you've done a little bit of training, then USSA is probably for you. I think you'll enjoy it more. I think you'll get more out of it. They will compress the curriculum where they know you've got it covered. They're not going to waste time on that. They'll move on and try and integrate new things. They're quite relaxed about you doing your own thing. They'll show you another way. You twizzle around, decide, nah, it's not for me, I'm going to stick with what I know. They're relaxed about that, no big deal. Front Sight is a brand. It's a great big company. They have a very sophisticated marketing mechanism. They've done very well, and like I say, please don't misunderstand me. More power to them. Fantastic. USSA is a very good school. I think that this new management team, from what I've heard, is going to bring in some more people. They'll spend some money on advertising and marketing. They'll get the place up again and running. And certainly, if you want to make life a little bit more interesting, integrate some of the empty hand stuff, the grappling, defending your pistol, moving, shooting on the move, shooting from the most bizarre, unconventional positions, but still accurately and fast, and just have a more kind of free-flowing approach to combat, pistol combat, rifle, gunfighting training, then USSA is probably for you. Just trying to think if there's anything that I've missed. You'll see on the previous video that stoppages happen while you're training in one thing. You'll get a real word stoppage, and it really interrupts the rhythm. But that's a very good thing to happen while you're training. You get used to the idea that things are not always going to flow mechanically, and situations rectify themselves. There's always going to be surprises, and whatever the surprise is, fix the problem. Accept the situation, fix the problem, and get back into the fight. So that is about it, guys. I'm not sure I could ramble on forever. There's no point in me rambling. I hope I'm not rambling. Just to conclude, they're both very, very good schools. I would recommend either of those schools to anybody. If you have the money and you have the time, do one-on-one training. They say that you get twice as much as you do from a classroom situation. I'd say you probably get 3 times as much as you do from having to wait your turn, waiting for other people to go. Basically going at the pace of the lowest common denominator, if you like to use that phrase. One-on-one is much more flexible. You get a lot more out of it. So I'm going to come back to Tulsa. Coincidentally, it's also where one of the largest gun shows in America is. Happens in April. I'll be back in April to that gun show because they've got a huge World War II section. I'm bringing my wife Joanne with me. I'm going to deliver her over to Richard, and she's going to come out of a couple of days training with him. Fucking killing machine. She's going to be awesome with handgun and maybe a wee bit of rifle. And I'll come back and start doing some more one-on-one with Richard or whoever's available. So that's it. I'll stop now. This video must be at least 10 minutes. I'm looking forward to seeing Jim tomorrow, and you'll see some machine guns being discharged in Texas, along with, I believe, possibly some dynamite. So that should be quite an interesting bit. I think it's about it. I'll see you later.